Hey, welcome back to another episode of Chaotic Pubcast After Hours, now part of Chaos Included. Very excited about the new brand. Got a new logo on the way. It's going to be fun.
That's right. This will be airing like after we've started dumping more stuff on, like after the YouTube change. That's interesting.
Yep. This will be the first After Hours under Chaos Included.
What?
Surprise, CJ.
So honored to be here. This is I was not aware of this, so I feel very special. Very honored.
We talk about it in the first Chaotic Pubcast since we've been back. We give you a little bit of info about what's coming, but just to recap it a little bit, you're gonna have all kinds of new content and streams coming in on the channel. It's a bunch of cool stuff. It's gonna be really fun. So
nice.
So we have CJ here tonight again. We had such a fun conversation last time. We decided to bring him back, and then the lovely Z Diggity, my co-host.
I weaseled my way into an after hours.
I feel special. I have both of you here, so I'm like the honored guest on such a special episode. So
yeah, this
is Z. What did we just do?
We watched you play that one desktop
game.
No,
not that.
No, we just watched the very handsome Cassian Andor in episode 4, and it was pretty friggin' money. I thought it was going to be kind of a slog and a little bit of a slow thing because it was just a bunch of Imperials talking and everything, but I was incredibly engaged the entire time, so it was good. It was really good.
Yeah, that's what I said while we were watching. I was like, holy shit, this writing is so good. Like, the dialogue was great. Just like all their little, I don't know, like anecdotal or like metaphorical stories, I guess we're looking forward to like get their points across. It was just perfect, man.
It drew you in because, like, me, I'm not I didn't read Star Wars, a lot of the books like you all did. I played some of the games, of course, watch every movie that's out there and every episode. But I love the back building they're doing on all the questions I've ever had, as a kid growing up.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing, Cassian Andor, some of this stuff happened right before Rogue One. Rogue One, one of the best movies. One of the best newer, trilogies.
No, just one of the best Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
I mean, it's in my top 3.
Yeah, it's in my top 3. Definitely is. So yeah, like, seeing this, how some of the small things, built up in some of these big battles and some of these big movies, I'm loving it because it's not lightsaber centered.
Yeah,
it's the people who actually put in some work to get all this bigger stuff happening.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's funny is like one of Rogue One's main appeals, besides not having Skywalkers in it, for the most part, was that it was kind of a self-contained story. And now it's funny that this show's here, and so it's technically not a self-contained story anymore. We're kind of branching out of that story, but we're branching backwards, and so I think it's still worth it. So that's a lot of the things I've seen online is people are like, oh, well, it sucks because we know how it ends already. And it's like, I mean, we know how a lot of things, and it doesn't make any prequel type stuff any less intriguing.
I definitely am part of that party that it does kind of take things a little bit away from me if I know the character's fate. Like, but that being said, they can retcon anything into anything. So I try not to do that anymore.
Yeah, and that kind of it still keeps you guessing because you have writers that or the director will just retcon something completely, change it. But even then, I'm like, I know what their fate is, but what led up to this? Because Star Wars was very vague on a lot of stuff. It was just Jedi versus Sith, and you're like, there's a whole political war going on in the background. What happened?
Yeah, and we get Andor in Rogue One, and he's already like working for the rebellion, but he seems kind of like on the fence about it even then, and you don't really get any backstory on him. So I'm glad they made the series for that reason. to kind of show why he was conflicted about the orders he was given and stuff like that.
I feel like, especially with this particular character, since he's relatively less fleshed out, like the Grand Inquisitor and everything. Because you remember in Kenobi when the Grand Inquisitor got stabbed in Episode 2, and the entire internet was just like, and they wigged out and freaked out because
how did he die? No, he's alive.
Yeah, how does time work?
Yeah. It's like, because, well, you know, the thing that nobody hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. Right. And so, like, I just feel like it's kind of a breath of fresh air to kind of get this new, it's not like necessarily like an isolated story anymore, but it's nice to have this like story where you don't know, there's no preconceived this other than what happens in Rogue One, and we know what happens. It's just this story with kind of underdeveloped characters, which I'm loving.
Dude, it's such a cool, if you were to just watch the prequel, original, and sequel trilogies, there's this whole gap in between, you know, the creation of the Empire and then like the first Death Star, right? Like there's this gigantic gap, and they've done good about covering it in other media, but it's still such an unexplored, which I know a lot of people want to go further back. They want to see High Republic, they want to see Old Republic, but there's so much good content in that, like the first forming of the rebellion and how the Empire first like grew its roots after the Clone Wars and stuff like that. And I think that's like, this show is one of the ways to do it without focusing on like, where's my Jedi?
Yeah. And that's where a lot of, I guess, like smaller fans, I'll say probably like not even me, like I don't sit there, I want to see a Jedi, like I could care less, but a lot of fans that really don't know what's going on, they just think it's Jedi and that's it. So this is building that story, and that here's how they either came back or here's what happened. You know, it's leaving, for me, it's fulfilling everything that I've always wondered. Like as a kid growing up, like I've always had these questions. And like I said, I didn't read the books. I've played the games. So this is just that whole, I'm like, wow, this is really, and even, and like, let me say it this way. Andor started out slow for me. But as I started realizing what's going on, how this is building up, I'm really interested in what happens, even though I know what happens. You know, it keeps me wanting to watch more.
Yeah, the journey there, kind of a thing, you know, like as opposed to the result of the journey, kind of an outlook on it.
Dude, there's such, I know you said you haven't read the book, but there's such good literature out there that like goes pretty in depth to like everything going on, right? Like there's the book before Rogue One that deals with Galen Erso, which is Jyn Erso's dad in Rogue One, called Catalyst. And it's basically everything that leads up to Rogue One besides Cassian. And so I've read it a couple times, and I'm interested to see like what kind of flows into Andor and how things are going to connect, which I'm pretty sure. Yeah. It's new canon. It is canon. And then you have the Thrawn books, which the first three of those, I haven't read the Ascendancy ones, but the first three of those all happened during this time period too. And it's pretty awesome. There's like flashbacks with, or not flashback, but him working with Vader and stuff. So it'll be cool to see some more of that get brought to the screen.
Yeah, I know Thrawn's a really big, like, strategical military character. So, and he's like the best, military tactician. Yeah. So, like, that'll be good to see him, because I know he has a lot to do with. I know in Star Wars Rebels, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he shows up there, which actually I still have not watched that, so that's actually on my to-do list. Starting on the 1st on Saturday is start watching Star Wars Rebels. So that'll be good to see a lot of other characters. I mean, you brought in what's his Cad Bane? They brought him live action.
Yeah, 30 seconds.
For 30 seconds, highly disappointed in that, because I really wanted to see crazy killer, mercenary assassin Cad Bane.
I don't think that's the last we've seen of him, but I was bummed in Boba Fett that we got him for 3 minutes of screen time, maybe less, Yeah. So.
Hey, as long as we see more Cobb Vanth, I'm happy.
Yeah. Yes.
Get some more Timothy Olyphant.
Yep. So I got a question for y'all. So obviously we know what happens in Andor as far as what it leads up to, but how are y'all liking? It's like because I kind of look at it as a very small thing that leads up to big events. So how are y'all feeling about where they're leading some of these? How Disney's like showing up with some of these small episode or like very short storylines in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. I think it's like you said earlier, it's given us a different windows into what's going on. Like if we didn't have any of these shows or spin-off movies, we would just see everything through the lens of the Skywalkers, right? And it's nice to bring things down to like a ground level, kind of like when we talk about Marvel.
Yes.
Like if we only ever focused on the Avengers, we would never see like shit happening at the ground level, like in Luke Cage or Jessica Jones or Daredevil or
hell, even
anything.
She-Hulk right now. So
even She-Hulk. Like if you only focus on Iron Man, you would never see Megan Thee Stallion twerk. You know what I mean?
I have a lot of issues with some of that. We'll get to that later, I guess.
Hey, we'll get to that later. Man. I can't wait for that discussion because I think I'm on the opposite side. But
probably me too.
Yeah.
But we'll stick to Star Wars for now. But yeah, no, I think the more windows I can get into, like, in we're talking about a whole universe, right? And so there's millions of things going on at the same time in the overarching empire and outside the empire. And it has to do with more than these 10 characters we grew up with, right? And so the more we can see going on, the more room there is to expand on other stories later. And it just becomes exponentially a bigger universe the more we get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I remember when Disney initially bought Star Wars, and and they're still yelling and hooting and hollering to this day, but a lot of the fan base is like, oh, Disney, I can't believe they're gonna ruin Star Wars. I'm like, yeah, I mean, teach their own on that, but at the same time, it's like you're getting more Star Wars. Like, I'm not going to complain. There's a video game company, or I forgot the name of it, that purchased all of the rights to Lord of the Rings. And people are like, it's the first time that transaction's happened in like 40 years. The rights have been handed over, and everybody's kind of losing their shit about it. It's like, dude, we get more Lord of the Rings content. It's, if you put money behind your free, like, that's kind of like, I've always been against the people like who are like, oh, they sold out. I'm like, wouldn't you want something that you enjoy, or wouldn't you want more of it and have it get more funding and get more production? Is Star Wars perfect? Never, but we're getting more of it. So
yeah, and I'm not a Disney simp by any means. They're as a whole probably like an inherently evil company, right? But they got money, and they can pump out they have the means to pump out the entertainment we want, right?
Yeah. And make it to and I'll say, like, graphically, make it to a way where we're gonna love it. Because I mean, I'll look at all the directors Star Wars have had over the years. When Disney finally had, basically, let's just say an endless pocketbook. So you have the endless pocketbook to where you can hire the right directors, hire the right actors, which they've done. Like, tell me a bad actor so far in Disney. I mean, in the Star Wars universe, newer wise, to where you're just like, I hear Ryan clicking away. Let me find one.
Well, just to cover our asses in the comment section here, shut up about the Reva thing. We don't give a shit. I thought she did a good job. So
she was amazing to me. I agree with
great.
That. She was amazing. But yeah, like, you think about the major directors now. You have Jon Favreau, who's helping. J.J. Abrams helped at one point.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of the directors that are coming up making these Star Wars trilogies that it's gonna mean something, and it's gonna tell a story. Like, and basically they're backpedaling, telling stuff that people don't know, that we've always wondered about, and we've heard it. Oh, here's a small battle that happened here, and then all of a sudden we get a trilogy about it.
Yeah, and I love the shows, and I like these smaller scale stories that we are getting. Like, I'm loving it. I do think that Star Wars really, really needs to work on the sequel trilogy, though. and the universe that they've established with that. And I've said this in an actual like solid episode of the podcast where, yeah, maybe you should just make a good movie that you don't have to repair it with a bunch of these sub stories and books and everything. Maybe you should do that.
Yeah.
But at this point, they need to repair what damage has been done with those three disconnected movies.
How?
I don't know. That's not. I'm the consumer. I'm not the fucking creator of that shit. That's up to them.
Yeah, you guys the wrong person on that.
How do you fix that? Like, how do you fix that big of a fuck up? That's like House of the Dragon's great, but you're not gonna fix that messy fucking ending of Game of Thrones, right? Like,
well, yeah, and like you can't fix that. Like
you just gotta make enough you just gotta make enough more good content that people just were like, oh yeah, they did do that. I forgot about that.
You just like, oh, whatever happened.
Wait, who are the Skywalkers? That was like 30 years ago.
It's like me when it comes to DC making Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds. Like, give me a whole bunch of cartoons and everything else where I was like, I forget about this. Or it's just, it happened.
So that's a good point. You start making High Republic or Old Republic movies and TV shows for like 20 years until people just forget there even was an original sequel, prequel.
Hey, and let's just say this. Game of Thrones was indirectly ruined by Star Wars.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because Benioff and Weiss...
they were so ready to go do their Star Wars sequel, they were just trying to wrap it up.
And HBO even said, like, we can give you more episodes. We have the money.
Yes.
Like, we print money.
I didn't know that.
And then they were like, no, we want to wrap it up now. And then they ended up not getting the
there was I think there was an extra 20-ish episodes that they were supposed to make to, like, lengthen out that whole last season. Like, it was supposed to be, I think it's another 2 seasons maybe. Like 1 or 2 seasons where they were supposed to make more. And then all of a sudden they're like, nope, we're good. Nah, you don't have to look at it's a rough draft. It's fine.
It was so bad.
Yeah, and that's what turned out bad. But I like how they're doing this. But I guess I'll say the benefit of Star Wars is we know the end. It's what happens before that, because it's centuries. Well, it's centuries of stuff that happen that builds up to this. You know, so they really can keep going back as far as possible. We've kind of already gotten the post 6 episodes, 6 major movies. So, we got the 6, and now we got the post.
I feel like nobody but us would watch this, but I would love to see a movie that really focuses on the father, the son, and the daughter from the Clone Wars, like the elements of the Force. I would watch that so hard.
I don't want to go too deep in that, and I think they almost crossed a line in Clone Wars by even starting to push into that. Because that's when it becomes like it's already like sci-fi fantasy, right? Just because we got the Force to begin with and stuff. But that's when it gets like overly, and this is my opinion, of course. That's when it gets like overly fantasy, where now we're kind of talking about like almost semi-deities that are in control, and everything has a destiny. And
I mean, didn't Game of Thrones really go down the same path with Missandei, and you had the wargs, green seers, but they didn't dive so deep into it to where you're like, oh, well, they just kind of command everything, you know?
Speculation on what things are, especially now with YouTube and everybody has access to technology to pause things frame by frame. It's part of the movie making process, even more so now than it was back in the 70s. George Lucas even said he kept Yoda's race a mystery because of the allure and the speculation of it. He even said he wanted to keep the Force a mystery because of the speculation of it. Then he threw midichlorians in, and everybody fucking lost their shit. Yeah, you can't. Yeah. Mitochondrians,
mitochondria. They were the powerhouse of the Force, man.
Yeah, but like I felt like with those episodes, like with the father, the son, and the daughter, I felt like those episodes were just a bit different because I never viewed them as deities. I viewed them kind of as physical manifestations of the Force in a way. So there was still kind of the mystery for me, at least. But
yeah, I guess
not trying to yuck your yum or anything, but
I just said they're all powerful. They're immortal. They know everything that's going to happen. It's Sounds pretty deity to me.
Yeah.
Well, but I guess it kind of gives a little bit more tangibility to like what the Force is, because we see the Force when they, force push, force lightning, force choke, visions. So you have to tie it to something in a sense, I guess, or you have to give a little bit of lore, because otherwise it's just okay. You think of it just kind of like an ex machina thing, like it happens because it happens.
Yeah.
If you look at Obi in Kenobi, to when Leia was falling off the building, and he finds something, and he actually like force stops her from falling and like splattering in the ground. It gives something to where it's something more, but they're not going to tell you enough. Like it's just you plant seeds bit by bit, so it's a little bit more believable. Because even in real life, people have visions, think ghosts, things like that. Like there's some background to it, but it gives a little more realism to it.
Yeah,
Ryan's
I get what you're saying. I just like it ungrounds it a bit for me.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. No, I'll agree. It gives a little bit more spirituality, religionish type stuff. So it takes away from. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I can pick up what you're putting down for sure. I still would be interested in seeing that movie though.
He's like, so. I would pay for that one.
Yeah,
I'm seeing that in IMAX.
I mean, you know me, I'd watch it.
They could make a movie about Womp Rats and I'd watch it. It's Star Wars, so
as I tell everybody now, they're like, "Are you gonna watch that new show?" I'm like, "I have to. It's my job now."
Yeah.
I gotta.
Hey, if I want to
know what's going on.
If I want to be part of more After Hours, I gotta watch it. So.
Yep. Now we just gotta get you to watch Cobra Kai.
Oh yeah.
One day.
Same here.
10 years from now.
10 years from now. When it's
irrelevant.
The sequel to Cobra Kai.
30.
And there'll be an After Hours. Hey, we're gonna do a review of Cobra Kai, and then we're gonna watch the new one. Oh man! All right. So
Marvel.
Question is, all right, how do we like where Marvel's going right now?
Well,
I got to throw that out there. I've been waiting for this one.
I will say, we can keep it brief because we are at the 22-minute mark. But I am very hopeful, and I mean, I think what you're getting is like with how She-Hulk is right now, and I think She-Hulk was meant to be the way it is right now. And when I say that, I mean it was supposed to be taken very lightly and not really advance any kind of overarching MCU plot. More introduce the character and more just have fun and fuck around. And I can respect that. And like I said, not recording, but in private, like my only grief with the show, and it's starting to kind of come together, was that there wasn't really like a plot to it. There was nothing moving in it. It was just like her being like, I don't want to be a Hulk for 5 episodes. And I was like, is this really our plot? Is her just accepting she's She-Hulk now? Like, or is there actually a bad guy besides this? And then Titania started showing up more, and Titania
the intelligentsia showed up.
Yeah, they're inching along the plot. I mean, I just think they're waiting until some of the bigger stuff drops. You have, I think most of this phase was, let's build up some new people that are going to pop in later stuff, because most of whatever happened didn't advance a lot of plot lines. Maybe Loki did, Captain Falcon, Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, right. And then WandaVision, those 3 only advanced the plot. Everything else was like placeholder. Now you have Black Panther in a month. A month and a week.
I don't know. I would argue that Hawkeye did advance some stuff.
Oh yeah,
with
Hawkeye.
The setup.
Yeah.
I
kind of forgot about Hawkeye. I'm sorry, but he didn't have any powers.
I personally loved Hawkeye, but yeah,
loved it.
Yeah.
But I think they were just doing a lot of placeholder stuff just to build extra characters for what's going to happen later. And then now you have Black Panther 2 coming out in November. So, I mean, as of now, it's a month and a week, basically.
Wow.
And then beginning of the year, you have Quantumania. So you have two major movies. Like these are the big movies coming out after they did the TV series. So I think that's kind of what they were doing, like kind of holding everybody along until this stuff happens.
I really think that those two movies are really gonna. That's when we can determine. Okay, this is the direction it's going. I feel like the stuff that they've done with the TV shows and everything has been a little bit of fluff content. You know,
filler.
Obviously enriching the world is like enriching and appending the world and everything like that. But there's been no real big movement other than to say like, hey, New World Order, that's going to be a thing. These might be the bad guys of it. And hey, like you said, CJ, She-Hulk might show up too. You know, it's they're enriching the universe. I feel like with characters that when they show up, you'll do that thing in the theater where you're like, you know, you do the Leo point, you know,
right there. Yeah,
well, that's from the other movies.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we dive any more into Marvel talk, let's wait till the end of She-Hulk and reconvene.
Yes,
and see what big secrets are revealed at the end, because I'm sure we're going to get something big, and I think it's going to be a Red Hulk recast. But that's just me.
A Red Hulk recast.
Oh, that's a conversation there, buddy.
All right. Well, hey, let's wrap it up there. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks
for another successful After Hours and coronation to the new Chaos included.
Yes, I'm really excited. I'm glad to be a part of this episode. Like
you are literally the first content we've made for it.
I'm honored. I will say, just as a joke, I know Ryan said something about cooking stream. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'll do some cooking for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna do some cooking streams. Me and Ryan, me and the Mask. You know, we'll be there partnered up. You know, I'll have him in his nice little apron.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for having me on.
Kiss the cook.
Kiss the cook. We'll have his kiss the cook. Kiss the Mask.
Yeah, man, glad to have you on again. I said, after She-Hulk ends, I'm sure she'll have you back. You're always a favorite to talk with.
Truth be told, I literally wanted to be here because I wanted to record with you. So not to inflate your ego, CJ.
I'm so special. Oh, guys, I love you.
All right.
I love this group. All right.
Enough smooching. Hey, have a good night, good morning, whenever you're watching. Hopefully night. It's After Hours. Get over it. Check out our merch store. Check us out on social media. It's now going to be at Chaos Included if we can get it. But right now it's at Chaotic Pubcast still, depending on when you listen to it. So we'll see you next time. Have a good night. Cheers.
See ya.
Peace.